This is HFY Vanguard, where human hands awaken gods, and every touch changes the stars. The legend begins now. The tomb world of Nixaro hung in silence beneath a dying red sun. From orbit, it looked like a planet that had forgotten what warmth felt like. Oceans reduced to salted plains, mountains gnawed to dust, and the ruins of its once mighty cities half buried beneath endless dunes. Yet deep under those dunes, something ancient still breathed. Sean Mercer had a knack for finding things that didn't want to be found. His boots crunched through the thin crust of ancient stone as he entered the collapsed corridor of the so-called Temple of the Black Crown. The air was stale, carrying a metallic tang that made every breath taste like forgotten blood. His armor's cooling system struggled against the desert heat, whining softly as it tried to keep up. "Come on, Mercer," he muttered into his helmet mic. "One more ruin, one more payday." The words bounced back from the stone walls like ghosts laughing at him. He wasn't an explorer, not officially. Explorers filed reports and worked for universities. Sean worked for profit. He'd spent years running cargo for smugglers and mercenaries until he realized there was more money in selling the past than surviving the present. The United Earth Confederation might have spread humanity among the stars, but men like him, the scavengers, were the ones who kept the credits flowing between the cracks. His flashlight beam cut through the gloom, revealing carvings of inhuman elegance. Tall figures with elongated crests holding orbs of light, watching from the walls with eternal patience. The symbols were neither words nor images, yet they pulsed faintly like circuitry powered by the planet's heartbeat. He paused before a sealed door. His scanner beeped once, twice, then flatlined. No data. Whatever alloy this was, it predated human metallurgy by millennia. A grin tugged at his lips. Jackpot. The door yielded after some careful persuasion, a plasma torch, a few curses, and a desperate kick. Beyond it waited a vast chamber filled with a thin mist of dust that glimmered in the faint light streaming through cracks in the ceiling. The floor was carved with concentric patterns, and at the center stood a throne of black stone veined with gold. And on that throne sat her. At first he thought it was another statue, one of the many relics left behind by the vanished Nixaran civilization. But the craftsmanship stole his breath. The figure was female in shape, but not human. Where hair should have been elegant, crest swept backward like a crown of ivory blades. Her armor clung to her form like liquid metal, dark with faint hints of gold filigree. Cracks marred her surface, yet she radiated a quiet majesty that made Sean feel like he was trespassing in a cathedral. "Well, damn," he whispered. "They really knew how to make an impression." He circled the throne, studying her from every angle. Her expression was serene, lips slightly parted, eyes closed as if caught mid-dream. He noticed something unsettling. There was heat radiating from the statue, barely perceptible, but there. "Thermal residue," he muttered, checking his scanner again. The device fizzled and died. He sighed. "That's coming out of my paycheck." Still, curiosity outweighed caution. He reached out, hesitating only a moment before his gloved finger tapped the chest plate right above where her heart would be. The surface wasn't cold. It yielded slightly like warm flesh under polished glass. Sean froze. Hairline fractures spread outward from his touch, glowing with molten light that traced the patterns of her armor. The chamber vibrated as ancient systems stirred to life, low mournful hums echoing from deep within the planet. Dust cascaded from the ceiling like sand in an hourglass. "Oh, hell no," he breathed, stepping back. "That's not supposed to happen." Then her eyes opened. They were not eyes built for mortal sight, multicolored irises shifting through the entire spectrum, alive with depthless luminescence. She inhaled, and the air itself seemed to obey her. The throne pulsed with the same golden light, and cracks ran down her arms as stone gave way to living flesh of pale opalescent hue. When her hand moved, it was slow, deliberate, an act of rebirth. She reached forward, fingers closing around his wrist. The contact wasn't violent, but it pinned him in place with an authority that silenced every survival instinct he had. Her lips parted, and a voice emerged, soft but resonant, layered with the echo of ages. "By mortal touch, the silence breaks." Sean's heart pounded like a war drum. "You're alive." The alien woman blinked slowly, the light behind her eyes dimming into something more focused. Alive, she murmured, tasting the word, as if rediscovering its meaning. How long has the world slept? Sean swallowed hard. Uh, long, really long, thousands of years. Her gaze drifted past him toward the faint shafts of light filtering through the cracks above. Then the stars have changed. The songs are gone. He tried to pull his hand back, but she tightened her grip not painfully, but enough to send a pulse of energy up his arm. A warmth spread through his chest, into his head, into his thoughts. For a fleeting moment, he saw flashes that weren't his own cities of glass under twin moons, towers humming with power, legions of silver-armored warriors kneeling before this same queen now holding him. He gasped, stumbling backward as the connection broke. What the hell was that? She studied him, head tilted, voice like a whisper through cracked marble. Your memories. They echoed through me. Sean shook his head, trying to steady his breathing. Lady, I don't know what's going on, but I think I just fried something important in my brain. A faint smile curved her lips, the first sign of amusement he'd seen. And yet you stand. Her tone carried both regal command and wary fascination, as though she couldn't decide whether he was her savior or her mistake. I am Nuriel, she said finally, last sovereign of the Nixaran dominion. He blinked. Sovereign, as in queen. Her eyes flickered with ancient pride. Once. He let out a shaky laugh. Of course. I poked the galaxy's oldest monarch in the chest. Great job, Sean. The humor dissolved when the chamber shook again, this time from outside. A deep tremor rolled through the floor, accompanied by a faint roar from the distant surface. His motion sensor spiked. Something had detected the energy surge. Nuriel rose from the throne, unsteady at first, her legs half stone, half flesh. Sean instinctively caught her as she stumbled forward. Her weight was surprisingly light, her body warm, where living tissue had replaced crystal. Easy, he said, supporting her. You've been asleep a while. Her gaze met his, and for a moment the chaos around them faded. You touch me without fear, she said softly. Few of your kind would dare. Sean gave a nervous laugh. I'm not most people. The queen's lips quirked into a faint, knowing smile. So I see. The light in the chamber grew brighter, spreading through the walls like veins of fire. Symbols along the columns began to pulse in rhythm with Nuriel's heartbeat. Somewhere above engines, or something like engines, were roaring closer. What is that, he asked. Unwelcome guest, she said, glancing upward. This temple's awakening would not go unnoticed. There are eyes that still hunger for what we left behind. Great, Sean muttered. And I thought today's worst problem would be sand in my boots. Nuriel turned toward him fully now, her transformation almost complete. Her skin shimmered with faint traces of gold, her armor reforming like living metal that responded to her pulse. The sight was both terrifying and breathtaking. You awakened me, Sean of Earth, she said. That act binds us. Binds, wait, what? She reached up, touching the center of his chest plate where his heart beat fast. The preservation protocol recognizes you as my catalyst. Our fates are now intertwined. He stared at her, trying to process words that sounded like poetry and threat combined. Lady, I just came here for salvage. Then you have salvaged destiny itself, she replied. Another explosion rocked the temple. A cascade of dust fell like ash around them. Sean's visor flashed a proximity warning, energy signatures inbound. He drew his pulse pistol. Guess we're doing this the hard way, he said. Nuriel's eyes glowed brighter. There is no other way. As the roof began to crack open above them, a shaft of light pierced the chamber, scattering through the rising dust. For one heartbeat, it framed the two of them, the mortal scavenger and the reborn queen, locked in a tableau that would echo through history. Sean glanced at her, his usual smirk returning despite the chaos. Well, Your Majesty, welcome back to the galaxy. Nuriel tilted her head, a spark of wry amusement flickering in those otherworldly eyes. Let us see if it still deserves me. And as another tremor split the temple floor beneath them, the Queen of Stone stepped forward into the light, pulling her accidental savior with her toward a future neither of them could yet imagine. Sean Mercer had stared down pirates, mercenaries, and a plasma storm that nearly stripped his ship in half. But nothing compared to standing in front of a half-stone alien queen who just declared him bound to her. The chamber still vibrated with residual energy, Golden fissures pulsed along the walls, humming like a heartbeat too big for the world to contain. Sean's armor sensors overloaded twice before giving up entirely. He turned them off. Whatever was happening here didn't belong to any science he knew. Nuriel, because that was what she called herself, moved like someone relearning her own existence. Each step cracked away more of the stone encasing her until fragments scattered across the floor like broken glass dissolving into light. Her face, once marble smooth and expressionless, now carried subtle traces of emotion, curiosity, confusion, a flicker of something that might have been sorrow. She studied her hand as if it were foreign. The matter conversion held. My body remembers what it was. Good for you, Sean muttered, keeping his pistol half raised. Mine remembers being alive, so let's not change that, yeah. Her gaze flicked to the weapon. Not fear, not threat, just amusement. You fear me but still stand close. Intriguing. I don't fear you, he lied. I just have a healthy appreciation for things that glow and talk in ancient riddles. That earned the faintest laugh from her soft and melodic-like wind across chimes. It made his stomach twist in a way he didn't like to admit. Nuriel turned toward the great door they'd entered through. The golden veins had hardened into molten scars. This world remembers me, but I no longer recognize it. You've been out for a while, Sean said. Couple thousand years at least. Your people, they didn't exactly make it. Her head tilted slightly. Extinction. I sense it in the air emptiness where voices once sang. Sean hesitated. There was no way to soften the truth. Yeah, the Nixaran are gone. The galaxies moved on. You're it. Nuriel's eyes dimmed the colors within them, swirling slower. Then the Dominion has truly fallen. She turned away, and for the first time Sean saw something more than regal distance in her posture, a tremor of grief, ancient and infinite. Against his better judgment, he stepped closer. Hey, he said softly, I've lost people too. Doesn't get easier, but you deal. You keep moving. She looked over her shoulder. You speak as though time heals all wounds. Not all, he admitted, but it keeps them from bleeding forever. For a long moment, the queen of a dead world simply stared at him, her expression unreadable. Then she reached out her fingers, brushing the side of his helmet. The HUD flickered violently before shutting down. Hey, what the? I wanted to see your face, she said. The visor retracted automatically. Warm, dry air hit his skin as he found himself staring into eyes that contained galaxies. She regarded him with an intensity that made his pulse skip. So young, she murmured. Your kind burns bright and brief. You don't look bad for someone with a few millennia on the clock. Her lips curved into something dangerously close to a smile. Flattery, a universal constant, it seems. He was about to respond when a sharp vibration rolled through the temple floor. Dust fell from above and faint echoes of machinery whirred somewhere deep in the ruins. Sean's instincts kicked in. We need to move. Someone picked up your reactivation signal. Nuriel's expression hardened instantly. The sorrow vanished, replaced by command. Then we shall not linger. Right. Follow me, your majesty. She raised an eyebrow, or the alien equivalent of one. You mock the title. Habit, he said with a smirk. Royalty doesn't usually need saving by scruffy humans like me. Then consider this a first, she replied, matching his tone with quiet grace. They navigated the collapsing corridor, stepping over shattered pillars and glowing fragments of alien tech. Sean's comm crackled with static before cutting out completely. The planet's interference was getting worse. Behind them, the throne room groaned, then imploded as the support beams gave way. A cascade of golden dust swallowed the chamber. Guess there goes your chair, Sean muttered. A throne is nothing without a people to rule, she said quietly. The words hit him harder than expected. He didn't respond. As they reached the outer passage, a faint blue light flickered ahead. Sean crouched, signaling for her to stop. He peeked around a cracked pillar and cursed. A ship, not his, sleek, angular, and bristling with weapons scavenged from half a dozen alien designs. Tark Voss had arrived. Damn it, he hissed. Nuriel leaned close enough for him to feel the warmth radiating from her newly restored body. An enemy, professional rival, he said, the kind who shoots first and invoices later. She studied the vessel. Then we shall not give him the chance. Hold up, your majesty. Maybe let the guy with the gun go first. But she was already walking forward. The faint light emanating from her skin intensified, rippling across her armor. Nouriel stopped. The air shimmered. Every dormant mechanism in the corridor came alive. Stone panels shifted, revealing energy conduits that pulsed with the same golden light as her body. Ancient glyphs flared along the walls, responding to her presence. "You're triggering the temple systems," Sean said, awe mixing with panic. "I am the temple," she replied simply. A deep rumble echoed through the passage, and a section of floor retracted, revealing a spiral stairway descending into darkness. She glanced back at him. "Come." He stared into the pit. "You've got to be kidding me." Her tone was unamused. "Do you wish to stay and greet your rival?" Sean sighed. "Ladies first." They descended. The air grew cooler, denser with age and dust. Bioluminescent patterns lined the walls, lighting their path in ghostly blues and greens. "What is this place?" Sean asked, scanning their surroundings. "Royal Preservation Vaults," Nouriel said. "Designed to protect the bloodline should the Dominion fall." He frowned. "Looks pretty intact for something that's been buried a few thousand years. Our technology was built to endure, unlike yours, it seems." "Ouch," he said with a grin. "Already roasting me. That bond of ours works fast." Nouriel gave him a sideways glance, but there was the faintest glimmer of humor there. "You are difficult to categorize, Shaun of Earth." "Good. I'd hate to be predictable." They reached the bottom, a cavern so vast it stole his breath. Dozens of sleek black ships rested in cradles of gold-lit metal, preserved like insects in amber. Each one hummed faintly as though aware of their presence. Sean whistled. "Tell me these still fly." Nouriel placed her hand on the nearest hull. The ship shimmered, lights racing across its surface before a hatch irised open with a sigh. "They remember their queen," she said softly. "Guess we found our ride," Sean murmured, following her aboard. Inside, the vessel awakened like a slumbering beast. Consoles lit up, holographic runes spiraled through the air, and the hum of dormant engines deepened into a steady thrum. Nouriel moved with growing confidence, her hands brushing controls that seemed to respond to thought as much as touch. Sean hovered beside her, equal parts fascinated and terrified. "You sure you know what you're doing?" She looked over her shoulder. "Would you prefer to remain here and ask your rival for transport?" He grinned. "Nope, fly away, Your Majesty." The engines roared to life and the ship lifted from its cradle. Dust and fragments spiraled in their wake as they ascended through a hidden tunnel that opened to the surface like the throat of a mountain. Outside, Tarkvoss's ship loomed on the horizon. His comms burst to life, distorted but understandable. "Mercer, you bastard, you beat me here. I'll pry that relic from your corpse if I have to." Sean rolled his eyes. "Friendly guy." Nouriel didn't hesitate. "He will not touch what is mine." The ship's hull shimmered again, and a field of golden particles erupted behind them, dispersing Tark's first barrage of plasma bolts into harmless light. "Nice trick," Sean said, gripping the controls as she leaned beside him. "Old defenses," she replied calmly. "From a time when the stars themselves bowed to our empire." He glanced at her, adrenaline still spiking. "So, what happens now?" Nouriel turned toward him fully, her gaze both regal and intimate. "Now, scavenger of worlds, you guide me through the one that has replaced mine." Sean raised an eyebrow. "You want me to be your guide? You awaken me. You carry my resonance. The bond between us is not easily broken." Her voice dropped lower, softer, almost dangerous, nor easily ignored. The silence that followed was thick enough to drown in. Outside, the dying sun flared across the horizon, bathing her features in molten gold. He swallowed. "I guess we're partners then." "Until the stars forget their names," she said. And as the ship streaked into the upper atmosphere, leaving the tomb world burning beneath them, Sean realized he wasn't sure whether he'd just become the luckiest man in the galaxy or the most doomed. The planet groaned like a waking beast. Shockwaves rippled through the stone as ancient mechanisms failed after millennia of sleep. Somewhere above the ceiling split, releasing a shaft of red light and the roar of engines. Tarkvoss had found them. Sean threw himself into the pilot's seat as Nouriel's fingers brushed the glowing console. The ship responded to her touch lights, spreading outward in delicate spirals. "Systems responding," she said, her voice calm despite the chaos. "Then let's get the hell out of here." The cradle clamps disengage. A shudder, then the ship lifted, first a tremble, then a smooth, effortless rise. Dust poured off the hull like ash. The hidden launch tunnel ahead of them cracked open, revealing a narrow throat of rock that stretched toward the surface. Tark's voice came over the open frequency, warped by static. "Mercer, you think you can steal my score? I'll blast you out of the sky." "Great," Sean muttered. He brought friends. Radar pings confirmed at least 6 life signs. Nuriel's eyes flared gold. "Weapons are offline. I can divert auxiliary power to shields." "Do it." The temple trembled as Tark's ship fired its first volley. Bolts of plasma tore through the cavern, mouth painting everything in violent blue light. The shockwave flung debris across the hangar. Sean gritted his teeth, guiding the ship upward through the narrow tunnel. "Hang on!" They burst into the open, erupting through a storm of sand and fire. Behind them, the temple collapsed, swallowing the last remnants of a forgotten empire. Sean barely had time to breathe before Tark's cruiser loomed into view, bigger, heavier, and armed to the teeth. "That's him," Sean said. "The galaxy's most charming sociopath." Nuriel studied the vessel, expression unreadable. "He hunts relics of the dead, a carrion feeder." "Yeah, welcome to the modern galaxy." The enemy ship locked on. Warning sirens screamed. Sean rolled the vessel hard, diving into the dunes below. Energy blasts scorched the sand, leaving molten craters in their wake. "Can this thing shoot back?" Nuriel's hands hovered above the controls, threads of light wrapping her wrists. "Its defenses were meant for preservation, not war. But I can adapt them." The air behind them shimmered as the Nixaran craft released a swirling cloud of microscopic shards. The next plasma volley vanished into the haze, diffused into harmless sparks. Sean let out a breathless laugh. "Nice, what do you call that?" "Reflection dust," she said. "A memory of our wars." They climbed higher, the red sky thinning into black. Sean's heart hammered as the stars came into view, cold, infinite, and terrifyingly close. The ship's engines sang with a resonance he could feel in his bones, like another heartbeat pulsing beneath his own. "Where to?" he asked. Nuriel closed her eyes. "Away." He grinned. "I can manage that." Tark's cruiser followed them into orbit, firing relentlessly. The smaller Nixaran vessel weaved through the blast, graceful as a predator fish in deep water. Sean's hands danced across the controls, but half the time, the ship seemed to anticipate his moves before he made them. "Okay," he muttered. "That's new." "The neural resonance," Nuriel said. "You feel the ship as I do. So we're co-pilots now." She glanced at him. "We are connected in ways you cannot yet imagine." "Great, as long as you imagine us not dying." A bolt grazed their hull. Pain lanced through Sean's chest, sharp and electric. He gasped. "What the?" Nuriel's expression softened. "The link cuts both ways. The vessel's pain becomes ours." "Fantastic feature," he wheezed. "Remind me to turn that off later." "Endure," she said simply. He did. Gritting his teeth, he banked the ship toward the planet's night side. The twin moons rose ahead like pale eyes. Tark's cruiser pursued relentless. Nuriel's tone shifted, commanding, ancient. "There is a canyon network below. If we descend, his scanners will struggle." "You sure?" "I built this world." Good enough for him. He nosed the ship downward, diving into the darkness. The atmosphere burned around them in streaks of gold and crimson before they plunged into shadow. The canyon was a labyrinth of jagged stone walls glittering faintly with mineral light. Sean threaded through the narrow gaps at impossible speed, guided by instinct and by the faint echo of Nuriel's mind against his. Every time he thought they'd clip a rock, the ship moved a hair faster, smoother, alive. "Now," she said, "release the dust again." He obeyed. The cloud burst behind them just as Tark's ship entered the canyon. Plasma bolts hit the field and ricocheted, exploding against the canyon walls. The resulting shock wave rocked both vessels. When the dust cleared, Tark's cruiser was gone from sensors. "Did we lose him?" "For now." Nuriel's voice carried both relief and restraint. "He will not give up easily." "Yeah, that's what I was afraid of." They flew in silence for a while. The only sound was the steady hum of the engines and the faint whisper of their linked heartbeats. Sean glanced at her. The soft glow of the console painted her skin in shades of bronze and pearl. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded, though her eyes remained distant. "This place, it was once the cradle of our dominion. Now it is a tomb. To awaken and find nothing but dust, it is a cruel mercy." Sean hesitated. "You've still got me." That drew her attention. "And what are you, Sean of Earth?" He shrugged. "A thief with good timing." She smiled faintly. "Or destiny's fool." "Maybe both." He turned back to the controls. "We need to reach orbit and find somewhere Tark won't follow." My ship's in storage near the equatorial ridge, but if this thing flies better, I'm sticking with it. This vessel was made for royalty, she said. It will obey you as long as our bond endures. Good to know. Just don't expect me to start wearing a crown. Nuriel leaned forward, resting a hand on the console. The glow beneath her palm pulsed gently. You already carry one of choices, not metal. He looked at her, and for a heartbeat, the air between them thickened, charged with something unspoken electric. Then alarms blared. Tark's ship reappeared on sensors emerging from behind a ridge. His voice crackled again, furious. You can't hide from me. Mercer, that relic belongs to me. Sean groaned. Persistent bastard. Nuriel straightened, eyes burning. Then let him chase. The ship surged upward, engines screaming, as they pierced the atmosphere once more. Tark followed, firing wildly. Sean banked hard, diving between debris fields from ancient satellites, weaving through the skeletons of ships long dead. Nuriel reached toward him, placing her hand over his on the throttle. A spark leapt between them, literal visible light. Suddenly, the controls felt like an extension of his own body. Holy, what did you just— Connection amplification, she said. Trust me. The ship responded like a living creature twisting through space with impossible agility. Tark's blast missed by meters. Sean laughed, exhilarated. Now we're talking. Nuriel's lips curved. You learn quickly, human. Fast learner, slow survivor. Then let us defy the odds. She pressed her other hand to the control sphere. The vessel's wings unfolded, releasing a pulse of radiant energy that flared across the void. Tark's sensors shorted out instantly. His cruiser veered off course, blinded. Sean seized the chance, punching full thrust. The stars elongated, streaking around them as they broke free of Nixaro's gravity. When the acceleration eased, only silence remained. Below, the planet shrank into a golden dot, ancient, lonely, and finally free. They sat in the dim cockpit, breathing hard. You did well, Nuriel said quietly. So did you, he replied. Not bad for your first day back from being a statue. She laughed, a soft melodic sound that wrapped around him like warmth in the cold of space. Tell me, she asked, after a pause, what drives you, Sean of Earth Gold Glory? He thought for a moment. Survival, mostly. The universe doesn't hand out favors. And yet you risked yourself to aid me. Guess I'm a sucker for ancient royalty with good aim. Her smile lingered. Your humor masks fear. Maybe, but it keeps me breathing. Nuriel reached out, fingertips grazing the edge of his jaw. The contact sent a rush of warmth through his nerves, a hum in his skull that wasn't entirely physical. Your kind fascinates me, she whispered. So fragile, yet you stand before infinity and laugh. He met her gaze. It's either laugh or scream. Her eyes gleamed like twin stars. Then I prefer your laughter. For a long while, they simply drifted, two beings from different epochs, suspended between the remains of one empire and the unknown reach of another. Finally, Sean broke the silence. We need a plan. Tark won't stop, and the UEC will detect that energy pulse sooner or later. Nuriel nodded. Then we seek the stars beyond their reach. Any suggestions? She looked out at the cosmic horizon. There are coordinates stored within this vessel, sanctuaries once belonging to my lineage. Perhaps some still endure. Lead the way, Your Majesty. She gave him a sidelong glance. Mock the title again, and I shall make you bow properly. Promises, promises. The ship turned toward the dark. As it accelerated, their reflections merged in the glass, the rogue and the queen bound by a single reckless touch. Somewhere behind them, Tark's crippled cruiser drifted through debris, its lights flickering weakly. Inside, the scavenger lord stared at the fading trace of their trajectory and smiled. Run, Mercer. The galaxy's big, but not big enough. Unaware of his vow, Sean and Nuriel vanished into the deep, leaving behind a world of dust and the first tremor of something greater awakening among the stars. The hum of the engines had faded into something soft and steady, like the rhythm of a heartbeat. For the first time since the temple collapsed, there was no gunfire, no alarms, no pursuit, only silence, and the faint vibration of power running through the ship's bones. Sean leaned back in the pilot's chair, exhaustion seeping into him like gravity. Across the cockpit, Nuriel stood motionless before the panoramic view of space. Stars glimmered against her skin, reflecting off the faint golden veins that traced beneath the surface. Hell of a first day out of the coffin, he said. Her reflection in the glass blinked once, then turned toward him. This is the first time I have seen the stars with mortal eyes. They are smaller than I remember and yet infinite. He grinned. That's space for you. Well, looks calm, hides chaos. Nuriel crossed the floor with an effortless grace that made his muscles ache just watching her. You speak of chaos as though you are fond of it. Kind of my thing, Sean said. I make a mess, then survive it. She regarded him for a long moment. And yet you awaken me. Perhaps chaos serves a purpose after all. Yeah, he said dryly, waking alien royalty by accident, definitely part of the plan. The corner of her mouth curved upward. It wasn't quite a smile, it was something subtler, a spark of curiosity wrapped in dignity. Tell me, scavenger, why did you come to Nixaro? He hesitated. For money. Artifacts sell better than my charm. Heard a rumor about a priceless statue. Turns out the rumor was breathing. Her eyes glimmered like oil over water. And now that the statue breathes, Sean looked away, still figuring that out. The ship drifted through the void. Outside, a crimson nebula shimmered remnants of a dead star, glowing softly like embers that refused to die. Inside, the air felt charged, a current neither of them could quite ignore. He stood and moved to the side console. We should plot a jump. Tark will regroup. He always does. Nuriel followed her presence, a whisper of heat behind him. This vessel's drives are old, but they respond to thought. I will show you. She placed her hand on the control sphere. The holographic interface blossomed in golden light, orbit lines and star maps unfurling like petals. Then she reached for him. Your hand. He hesitated. Is this going to fry me again? Her gaze softened. No, this time it will share. When her fingers closed around his warmth, surged through his arm, gentle, not burning. The map expanded and suddenly he felt the ship. Hum of its engines, the flow of power through conduits, the gravitational balance across its wings. It wasn't just machinery, it was alive, and his heartbeat aligned with it. Holy! He broke off, eyes wide. I can feel it. Our connection grants you access. Nuriel said, her voice lower now. The vessel recognizes you through me. Their joined hands pulsed faintly light, spreading between them. He could sense her presence not just beside him, but inside his thoughts, quiet, curious, warm. Okay, he said, breath-catching. That's new. You fear it. He shook his head. No, just trying not to enjoy it too much. The faintest laugh escaped her. Your mind is loud, Shaun of Earth. Every thought burns like a sun. Guess we don't do subtle. The navigation system beeped softly. Coordinates stabilized. Course set, he said. Nuriel withdrew her hand, though the warmth lingered. We will travel through what your kind call hyperspace. It is different when shared. Define different. You will see. The engines flared and the stars outside melted into streaks of blue and white. The void folded around them. Gravity stretched thin until the sensation of motion became weightless dream. Sean gripped the armrest, teeth clenched. Okay, that's weird. It is the space between moments, Nuriel murmured. The heartbeat of the cosmos. He looked at her. In the kaleidoscopic glow of hyperspace, she seemed made of light, no longer just flesh and armor, but living energy. Every breath she took shimmered through his chest. Their link pulsed again. This time he didn't fight it. Images flickered in his mind, the Nixaran homeworld, before ruined towers of crystal rising beneath twin suns, her people singing to the stars. He saw her as she once was, crowned, commanding, radiant. Then the vision, darkened fire, wore the vex, descending like locusts of light. He gasped and stumbled back. Nuriel caught him effortlessly. Your body is not built for such depth, she said gently. What was that? My memory? Or yours, she said. Perhaps both. He rubbed his temples. You really need an instruction manual for this connection thing. She smiled faintly. The manual would take centuries to read. Figures. For a while, they simply stood close, the silence filled by the hum of hyperspace. Then Sean asked quietly, You said our fates are bound. What does that mean exactly? Nuriel's expression turned thoughtful. Among my people, to awaken a royal line by direct contact is to create resonance, life from life. It is both sacred and dangerous. Sounds like a hell of a responsibility. It is also a choice, she said. One we both made the moment your hand touched mine. He swallowed, throat dry. You make it sound permanent. Perhaps it is, she whispered. Does that frighten you? He looked into her eyes. Yeah, but maybe that's not a bad thing. The silence between them thickened again, heavy with something neither wanted to name. Her gaze drifted to his lips, then back to his eyes. When the kiss came, it wasn't sudden, it was inevitable. Her hand rose to his cheek, and the link flared heat light, the hum of two minds colliding. His breath caught as sensations multiplied, her heartbeat inside his, her memories flooding through his nerves, his own reflected back at him. For a moment, he wasn't just touching her, he was her. The universe vanished. There was only light. When they finally pulled apart, both gasped like divers breaching the surface. Her skin glowed softly, golden veins pulsing with the rhythm of two hearts. That was, he began. A beginning, she finished. He laughed dizzy. You have a way with words. I have had a long time to think of them. The tension eased, replaced by something quieter, more real. They sat together on the floor of the cockpit, watching the hyperspace flow ripple outside. Sean leaned back, exhaling. You know, I've kissed women before. Never had one turn into a light show. Then they were not connected to you. Guess not. She tilted her head. But the bond grows stronger. You will feel it in time, emotions bleeding between us, thoughts aligning. Sounds crowded. Or comforting, she said. He smiled faintly. Depends on whose thoughts leak through first. Her laughter was quiet, genuine. You are unlike any being I have ever known. Good. I'd hate to be predictable. Their conversation drifted from there, carried by the quiet pulse of the ship. Nuriel asked about Earth, about humanity, its wars, its art, its noise. Sean told her stories of rain that smelled like dust, of the music in city bars, of children chasing drones through neon alleys. She listened wide-eyed, like someone hearing the world for the first time. And yet she said your species survived its own chaos. Barely, he admitted, but we keep trying. That, she murmured, is what makes you dangerous and beautiful. They talked until words blurred. Eventually, the hum of the engines lulled them into silence. Sean's head nodded forward. Exhaustion claimed him. When he woke hours later, the ship was quiet. Nuriel sat nearby, eyes closed, light still rippling, faintly beneath her skin. Through their link, he felt her dreams, memories of lost kingdoms and laughter carried by the wind. He almost reached out, then stopped himself. She looked peaceful for the first time since awakening. Instead, he turned to the console. A proximity alert blinked softly, unfamiliar signatures approaching from hyperspace's edge. His gut tightened. Nuriel, he said quietly. Her eyes opened instantly, color shifting from gold to sharp blue. We are not alone. The warning klaxon sounded, and hyperspace fractured into shards of light. They dropped back into real space, straight into the path of a massive gleaming warship, bearing the insignia of the United Earth Confederation. Ah, hell, Sean muttered. Guess someone noticed the fireworks. Nuriel rose to her full height, regal once more. Your people. Yeah, he said. And they don't like surprises. Outside the UEC ship's lights flared. A transmission crackled through the comms. Unidentified vessel, you are in restricted space. Power down and prepare for boarding. Nuriel turned to him. What will they do? If they're smart, shoot first. And if they are not, he sighed, then we talk. Nuriel's eyes gleamed with a mix of wariness and curiosity. Then let us see what your kind call diplomacy. The stars shifted as the UEC warship drew closer, engines burning blue, like judgment itself. Sean glanced at Nuriel and muttered, this is going to be one hell of a conversation. The UEC cruiser Vigilant filled the viewport like a mountain of steel. Light from its engines burned blue-white against the black, every plate gleaming with the perfection of human engineering. Sean had seen warships before, but never from this close, not when their targeting arrays were already locked on him. Unidentified vessel, the comm repeated, power down immediately. He cut the engines to idle. The Nixaran craft drifted. All right, easy, does it, he muttered. Beside him, Nuriel watched in silence. Your people build prisons that fly, she said. They call them peacekeepers. Her gaze sharpened. Peace rarely wears armor. Before he could answer, the Vigilant fired a warning pulse, an energy ripple that made every console in the cockpit flash red. Sean lifted his hands. Okay, don't shoot. We're cooperating. A moment later, a voice replied, smoother, colder. Prepare for docking. Any hostile action will be met with lethal force. Nuriel straightened. The glow beneath her skin dimmed until only faint veins of light remained. If they mean to threaten you, they will regret it. He glanced at her, half smiling. Appreciate the loyalty, Your Majesty, but let's not vaporize my own species. Then they should learn courtesy quickly. The docking clamps latched with a metallic clang that echoed through the hull. Air hissed as the pressure equalized. Sean exhaled slowly. Here goes nothing. They were met by a squad of armored Marines, rifles raised. The corridor of the Vigilant was all sharp lines and sterile light, humanity's vision of order. Sean lifted his hands. See cooperative. The lead officer's visor reflected Nuriel's luminous figure. Identify yourself. Sean kept his tone light. Sean Mercer, salvage operator. This is, Queen Nuriel of... I am capable of introductions, Nuriel said. She stepped forward, every movement poised. I am Nuriel, last sovereign of the Nyxaran Dominion. The soldiers hesitated. Even through helmets, he could feel their uncertainty. One of them whispered, is she? Glowing. Focus, their commander barked. Escort them to the briefing deck. The briefing chamber was colder than space. Waiting for them were three figures, a gray-haired admiral with a stare like a scalpel, a captain in polished uniform, and a woman in a scientist coat with eyes full of hunger, the intellectual kind. Mr. Mercer, the admiral began. I'm Admiral Harris. You've caused quite a commotion. Wasn't my intention, Sean said. The temple started glowing. A statue came alive. Long story short. We're guests. Unregistered artifacts, the captain cut in, don't usually end in galactic-scale energy surges. Nuriel regarded them all with calm disdain. Your weapons are drawn against the last remnant of a civilization that once spanned 1,000 systems. Is this how humanity greets its betters? A silence fell like gravity. Then the scientist stepped forward. Dr. Elena Chambers, Xenoarchaeology Division. Your Majesty, if that title is accurate, your existence validates decades of theory. The preservation protocol, it succeeded, Nuriel said softly, though it left me alone. Dr. Chambers' voice trembled. We believed it myth. Harris cleared his throat. Be that as it may, the weapon you activated has triggered every sensor network from here to Proxima. The Tarkanian Union claims you violated their treaty zone. Tark Voss, Sean muttered. That son of a... You know him. Professional scavenger. Now working with the Tarkanians, apparently. The Admiral's expression hardened. They're filing diplomatic protests. They want the Nyxaran artifact, and the woman turned over. Not happening, Sean said before thinking. Nuriel's eyes flicked toward him, a faint warmth crossing their link. Harris studied them both. You realize, Mr. Mercer, this could escalate into open conflict. Then perhaps Nuriel said you should choose your allies wisely. Hours passed in interrogation and translation. Through it all, Nuriel answered calmly, explaining fragments of Nyxaran history, the rise of their dominion, the Vex Imperium's invasion, the desperate attempt to seal their royal lineage in stasis. Every word carried the weight of centuries. When the questioning ended, the Admiral leaned back. If even half of what you describe is true, the technology in your possession could change the balance of power. It already has, Nuriel said. Dr. Chambers looked between them. Admiral, consider the possibilities. Cultural preservation, medical applications, energy storage. Or weapons, Harris interrupted. The last time ancient tech surfaced, 3 colonies burned. Sean interjected. She's not a weapon, she's a person. Nuriel turned to him, surprise flickering in her eyes. You defend me as though you owe me something. Maybe I do, he said quietly. That earned him a long, unreadable look from the Admiral. Later in the guest quarters assigned to them, Sean collapsed onto the narrow bunk. Well, that went great. Nobody's dead. That's a win. Nuriel stood by the viewport, staring at the distant blue glow of Earth. Your homeworld. Yeah, he said. Haven't seen it in 5 years. It's beautiful, she whispered. So alive, so fragile. He joined her at the glass. The planet shimmered with light, oceans, city storms. Welcome to humanity's mess. Nuriel turned to him. Your species conquered the void with machines and willpower. And yet when faced with the unknown, you reach for weapons before understanding. Old habit, he said. Fear's our first language. And your second, he smiled faintly. Hope if we're lucky. She studied him for a moment longer. You are strange, but your heart speaks clearer than your words. Their connection pulsed again, faint but undeniable, a warmth between their minds that neither of them could fully control. Before Sean could respond, the door chimed. Admiral Harris entered with Dr. Chambers. "We've reached a decision," the Admiral said. "The Confederation proposes an alliance." "Define alliance," Sean said warily. "Protection for the Queen, controlled access to study her technology. In return, we ensure it doesn't fall to the Tarkanians or worse, the Vex." At that name, Nuriel's expression froze. The Vex still exist. Dr. Chambers nodded. "Our intelligence reports recent activity in the Outer Rim. They're searching for something." Nuriel's voice hardened. "They seek the Nexus key." "The what now?" Sean asked. "A control matrix capable of awakening every defense on Nixero," she said. "If they find it, no world will be safe." The Admiral folded his arms. "Then we'll find it first." Negotiations stretched long into the night. Nuriel demanded oversight, refusing to let humanity weaponize her people's legacy. Harris, pragmatic but not unkind, agreed to a joint task force under her command, with Sean listed as her liaison. When the meeting finally ended, they were alone again. Sean rubbed his face. "You realize you just made me a government employee." She smiled faintly. "You will survive. You always do." He met her gaze. "You trust them?" "No, but I trust you." The admission hit him harder than any plasma blast. That's dangerous faith. All faith is. Outside, the first light of Earthrise spilled across the viewport. 2 days later, they stood on the observation deck of the Vigilant as the fleet prepared to depart for Nixaro. Dr. Chambers rushed in holding a data tablet. "We decoded fragments from the ship's archives. There are coordinates 11 preservation chambers scattered across Nixaro and its moons." Nuriel's eyes widened. "My siblings." "They might still be alive," the scientist said. Sean placed a hand on Nuriel's arm. Through their link, he felt her hope like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. "Looks like the family reunion's back on," he said. But Harris's expression remained grim. "We also intercepted Tarkanian transmissions. Tark Voss has allied with Vex operatives. They're already en route to the Northern Temple complex." Nuriel's hope turned to fire. "Then we are out of time." "Agreed," Harris said. "The fleet departs within the hour." In the hangar, as crews prepared the Nixaran vessel for launch, Sean found Nuriel gazing at the stars. "You sure about this?" he asked. "Going back there might wake up more than just your people." She looked at him, light shimmering along her crest. "My world sleeps in silence. If I do not wake it, others will twist it into nightmare." He nodded. "Then I'm with you." She stepped closer. "You could remain here safe among your kind." "Not my style," he said. "Besides, someone's got to make sure the Queen doesn't kill the diplomats." That drew a genuine laugh from her. "Very well, Consort Mercer." He blinked. "Consort. In my culture, the one who awakens the royal line shares its fate." He tried for humor, but failed to hide the warmth creeping up his neck. "Guess that makes this official." Nuriel's eyes softened. "Indeed." They boarded the ship together. As the hangar doors opened, the fleet ignited its drives. Earth fell away behind them, a glowing memory fading into the dark. In the silence that followed, Sean glanced at her. "So what's the plan?" "We find the others," she said, "and we stop the Vex." He grinned, settling into the pilot's seat. "Just another day's work." Nuriel placed her hand over his. The bond hummed. "For you, perhaps. For the galaxy, it may be the day everything changes." The engines flared and the ship leapt toward the stars, toward war, toward destiny, toward the long-buried heart of Nixaro. The fleet tore through the dark like a blade of light. 20 ships, human and Nixaran, together streaked toward a single dying world. Nixaro. Once a jewel of civilization, now a tomb waiting to be disturbed again. Sean stood on the bridge of the Intrepid beside Admiral Harris and Queen Nuriel. Below them, the planet burned in slow motion, sandstorms crossing broken continents, lightning flashing through the ruins of once great cities. Visuals on the Northern Temple complex, a sensor officer reported. Energy readings off the charts. Vex signatures confirmed. Nuriel's jaw tightened. "They have awakened one of my kind," your brother Sean said quietly. "Turlian." The name fell from her lips like a prayer and a curse. If they've linked to him, they may already control the Nexus key. Harris looked grim. "Then we end this fast." "What's our play?" Nuriel turned to him, regal, even in armor that glowed faintly within her light. "If we assault from orbit, the temple's defense grid will annihilate us. We must reach him through the mind, not the gun." "Psychic diplomacy," Harris muttered. That's new. She's right, Dr. Chambers added. Our scans show the Nexus systems respond only to royal biosignatures. If Tyrillian still lives, only she and those linked to her can reach him. Sean stepped forward. Then we go in. Harris stared at him. You're not a soldier anymore, Mercer. Didn't say I was. I'm her link. That makes me the key. Nuriel placed a hand on his shoulder. You will not face this alone. He smiled faintly. Didn't plan to. The descent. The shuttle dropped through the storm like a falling spark. Lightning arced against the hull, painting the clouds golden violet. Through the viewport, the northern temple rose from the dunes, a colossal spire of black crystal, pulsing with the faint blue veins of the Nexus network. Tark's ship crashed nearby, Sean noted. Looks like the Vex didn't care about landing protocols. Vex never land, Nuriel said. They infest. The shuttle touched down near the temple's entrance. Winds howled across the sand, carrying whispers of ancient chants. As Sean and Nuriel stepped out, he felt the air vibrate, not sound but energy. The planet was awake. Feels like it's breathing, he muttered. It senses its bloodline, she replied. They entered the main corridor torches of cold plasma flickering to life as they passed. The deeper they went, the stronger the pulse became a rhythm that wasn't sound but soul, and somewhere within it a second heartbeat. Tyrillian. Nuriel slowed. He's close, but not alone. They reached the central chamber and stopped. A vast crystal dais dominated the room, and at its center stood Tyrillian. His form was radiant, in terrible silver veins glowing across his armor eyes, burning with alien fire. Around him, Vex drones floated in precise orbit like priests around a god they thought they controlled. Brother Nuriel called, her voice trembling. Tyrillian's gaze turned toward her, and for a heartbeat recognition flashed. Then his voice came distorted by Vex modulation. Sister, you live. I do, and so do you. You should have remained stone. Mercy and silence. She stepped closer. This is not you speaking. I am myself, he said, voice cracking through layers of static. And through me the Vex shall inherit our legacy. Our weapons will end chaos forever. Sean raised his pulse pistol. Yeah, hard pass on that. Human. Trillian's gaze shifted cold and infinite. You are the corruptor. You polluted her mind. Nuriel's eyes flared. He awakened me, brother, not corrupted awakened. Tyrillian lifted his hand. The air itself warped energy, coalescing into spears of light that slammed into the floor where they'd stood seconds ago. The blast hurled Sean back against a pillar. Damn it! He scrambled to his feet. We're running out of time. Nuriel turned to him. The bond, we must reach him through it. Together. You mean the mind thing again? Yes, but this time it will not be gentle. He grinned despite himself. It never is. The mind war. They joined hands. The temple vanished. In its place was a storm of memories, fragments of Nuriel's world twisted by Tyrillian's rage. Cities of light burning, seas turning black. Vex shapes crawling through the cracks of time itself. At the center of it all, Tyrillian stood taller, colder, his form flickering between flesh and code. You can't save me, sister. Then I will fall with you, she said. Sean stepped forward. Not happening. I didn't come this far to lose both of you. The Vex presence slithered between them. A voice like a machine god whispering into every thought. Join us. One consciousness. One perfection. Yeah, hard no. Sean yelled, forcing back the psychic weight crushing his mind. He focused on Nuriel, her warmth, her laughter, the night in hyperspace when they'd shared more than words. The memory burned bright, cutting through the cold. Nuriel drew strength from it. Her crest flared like a crown of fire. Do you feel it, brother? This connection, it is not weakness, it is life. Tyrillian faltered. The Vex hissed, tightening their grip. Emotion is error. Erase it. Funny, Sean said through gritted teeth. Error's what makes us human. And apparently what makes gods worth saving. He reached for Tyrillian, not physically, but through the link. Pain surged like molten glass, but he didn't stop. Images spilled through him, Tyrillian's fear, his shame, his centuries of isolation. The man wasn't a monster, he was lost. Nuriel's voice broke through the storm. Come back to us. Tyrillian's light flickered. I see you. Then the Vex screamed. The sound wasn't heard but felt vibrating through bone and thought. They're trying to override him, Sean shouted. Then we override them. Nuriel pressed her forehead to his, the link between them blazing. Energy flooded outward, golden and white, merging human defiance with royal command. Their combined will struck the Vex presence like sunlight through ice. For a moment, the storm shattered. Tyrillian fell to his knees. "I'm free," he whispered. Then the Nexus flared red. Sean looked up. "What's happening?" The Vex triggered the fail-safe. Tyrillian gasped. "They're overloading the planetary core. If it detonates, Nixaro dies and everything in orbit with it. Then we shut it down." Sean turned to Nuriel. "Tell me there's a way." "There is," she said. "But it requires a direct interface. The Nexus must recognize a royal signal amplified by human neural resonance. In English, you and I together." He grinned. "Always wanted to push the big red button." The last command. They ran to the central dais as the temple shook itself apart. The Nexus rose from the floor, a sphere of pure light pulsing with unstable energy. Nuriel placed her hands upon it. Sean did the same. Instantly, the world fell away again. He was inside the machine, endless corridors of data, rivers of starlight flowing through memory. He felt her beside him, both body and mind, their consciousnesses overlapping like two songs becoming one melody. "Find the core," she said. He reached out with thought, scanning the cascade of energy, their center node overloading fast. "Redirect it, through me. You'll burn. I was born to burn, if it means my people live. Not alone." He took her hand physically, mentally, spiritually. The overload hit them like a tidal wave. Pain, light, memory, all blending into one. He saw her entire life in an instant, her coronation beneath twin suns, the wars, the betrayal, the last moments before she turned to stone. She saw him too, his broken past, his lonely scavenger's life, the guilt that drove him to the stars. And in that merging, something new formed understanding. They spoke not in words, but in thought. "Nuriel, you carry chaos like a crown. Sean, you carry eternity like a burden. Both, then we share the weight." Together they sent the command. Light erupted from the Nexus, sweeping across the planet. Every Vex construct froze mid-motion, their circuits glowing gold before dissolving into dust. The overload reversed energy, folding inward until the Nexus pulsed once and stilled. Outside, the intrepid sensors registered the change. "Massive energy. Discharge," the technician shouted. "It's stabilizing. The core's shutting down." Admiral Harris exhaled. They did it. Rebirth. When Sean opened his eyes, he was lying on the dais. The air smelled of ozone and ancient stone. Nuriel knelt beside him, her skin faintly glowing, but her eyes heavy with exhaustion. "You're alive," he breathed. "So are you," he smiled weakly. "Not bad for a scavenger." She touched his face. "You are more than that now. You are the bridge between worlds." He sat up, looking around. Tyrillian stood nearby, free of Vex corruption, watching the golden light fading from the Nexus. "The system sleeps," he said, "and with it, the Vex threat." "Good," Sean muttered, "because I'm out of hero points." Nuriel helped him to his feet. "Come, let us greet your people before they assume the worst." The Alliance of Dawn. Back aboard the Intrepid, the atmosphere was electric. The Nixaran survivors, newly awakened siblings of Nuriel, stood side by side with human officers. For the first time in history, two species shared a victory, born not of conquest, but of compassion. Admiral Harris approached, saluting. "You saved more than a planet today, Mr. Mercer." "Yeah," Sean said, rubbing his neck, "but I'll pass on the paperwork." The Admiral smiled faintly. "You've earned more than that. Humanity owes you both a debt." Nuriel inclined her head. "Then let that debt be paid in peace." Dr. Chambers stepped forward, eyes shining. "Queen Nuriel, with your permission, we'd like to establish a joint research station here to preserve what remains." "You have my blessing," she said, "but promise me this knowledge must serve life, not destroy it." Chambers nodded solemnly. As the crowd dispersed, Sean leaned on the railing, watching Nixaro's reborn glow beneath them. "Never thought I'd see this." Nuriel joined him. "You gave me back my world. You gave me something better," he said softly. "A reason to care again." Her hand found his. "And what will you do now, Sean of Earth?" He smirked. "Thought I'd stick around. Somebody's got to keep the Queen out of trouble." She smiled an expression that could melt galaxies. "Then stay. Not as consort, not as soldier, but as my equal." He turned to her fully. "That's a deal." Epilogue, the touch that woke the stars. Weeks later, the Joint Command declared the Treaty of Nixaro, a pact of peace and cooperation between humans and the newly reawakened Nixaran. Together, they would rebuild the archives, guard the relics, and watch for any whisper of the Vex. But in a quiet chamber overlooking the planet, Sean and Nuriel stood alone. Below, new lights flickered across the surface, human outposts mingled with alien temples. Above, the stars shone brighter than they ever had. "Do you ever think," Sean asked, "what would have happened if I hadn't poked that statue?" She laughed softly. "Then the universe would still be asleep." He wrapped an arm around her, pulling her close. "Guess I woke up the right one." "You did," she whispered, "and in doing so you woke the stars." They kissed again, the glow of their bond rippling outward, a pulse that traveled through the void, subtle but unending. Somewhere perhaps it would awaken another sleeper. Another miracle waiting for a reckless human's touch. Because sometimes the fate of empires doesn't hinge on armies or crowns, but on one accidental heartbeat shared between a scavenger and a queen. And with that touch, two worlds began again.